Now, what does deploying a Vue app actually mean? For this, it's important to keep in mind that Vue apps run in the browser. I mean, any website is loaded with a browser, but Vue apps are driven by browser-side JavaScript code. All the code we're writing here, in the end, is transformed by this project setup and then converted into JavaScript code, which our browser understands. So what we see on the screen here was loaded from a server, but it was rendered on the screen by Vue, by this JavaScript code we wrote, and that happened entirely in the browser, not on some server. A server was just serving this HTML file, this HTML skeleton, and then the JavaScript code, which again was then executed in the browser, not on the server. And I'm emphasizing this because this influences how we deploy a web application, a website. Here, we really just have a couple of files which are all interpreted by the browser. We got our HTML files, in this case just one HTML file since we're building a single page application. We got CSS files, possibly. Here in the projects we worked on, we didn't have separate CSS files. We merged that with the components, and therefore the project setup will take care about extracting this and adding it to the page. We have no separate CSS files. And most importantly, we have a bunch of JavaScript code. Here, for example, we have our project setup, and that project setup will have certain scripts for transforming the code we wrote to code the browser understands. And I'll show you these scripts throughout this module. But therefore, we just have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We have no code that would run on a server. And therefore, we have a static web app, a static website, which means it's just a website with code that is evaluated by the browser and has no server-side code. And hence, a static website hosting provider is all we need. And options here would be AWS S3, Firebase hosting, Netlify. There are tons of static hosting providers. You can just Google for static hosting provider and you'll find a couple of examples. So that's what we need, and I will show you an example and the full deployment process step by step throughout this module.